Hello and welcome to The Hub, powered by Manpower of Richmond. I am your host, Michael Allen, and here on The Hub, we interview local business leaders, community partners, and various special guests. And we share unique, untold stories of companies, organizations, and people who are making a difference in our community. Manpower of Richmond, the sponsor of The Hub, is a national brand, yet we're a locally owned franchise. We're familiar with the challenges businesses face. It's a tough recruiting and retaining talent out there, and it's our entire focus. We'll help you manage your hiring and training, provide ongoing customized support. So today's guest on The Hub is Joyce Luckett, and she is the clinic manager and co-founder of the Animal Care Alliance, located at 1353 Abington Pike. And their mission is providing quality, affordable veterinary and spay-neuter services. Now, that's what the website says, but however, I think that after hearing from Joyce, there's a lot more going on than their mission indicates. So, Joyce, welcome to The Hub.
Thank you for having us here today.
It's good to see you.
You too.
And today we're here to discuss Animal Care Alliance, household pets, and even some wildlife. But before we go into that, please tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, just stuff about you.
Well, I'm a local girl. I grew up in Connersville and then lived quite a few places around the country and then came back here about 30 years ago after experiencing shelter life, actually in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's what got me started into the animal world, although I'd loved animals all my life. So, it's just been snowballed from there.
Awesome. Well, one thing that we ask on The Hub to start off is we like to ask people what was their very first job.
I've been working since I was 14 years old, and actually my first job was sitting in an empty house that was available for sale and showing any interested people in the property carpet samples and things like that, and showing them the layouts for possible future homes to be built, and has absolutely nothing to do with what I do now.
Right. So how did that come about?
I don't know. So a friend that was the construction person there just knew about me, and they needed cheap labor. So
this
a
was
high school
student.
In
Connersville.
Yeah, it was in Connersville.
So was it like a housing development, or was this person a builder? Or
yeah, both. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fun.
Interesting. So did they pay you okay, or?
No, but it was okay. It was more than I was making sitting at home. So
yeah, awesome. So you're the clinic manager and co-founder of Animal Care Alliance. So tell us what sparked your passion for animals. Kind of go back to your previous comment about yourself, and then kind of how ACA began.
Okay. Well, I grew up loving animals. My family we always had animals, dogs, cats, whatever happened to come through the yard. And I was even the person that other kids in the neighborhood would come to when they found an injured kitten, or the neighborhood dog got hurt or something like that. So it was just a natural thing. Animal Care Alliance actually got started with a $7,000 grant from the Wayne County Foundation. Okay. In 2006, we wrote a grant asking for $7,000 to start a community spay-neuter program. It was definitely needed, and it's still needed in this community. So I remember it was the fall grant cycle, and I remember exactly where I was when staff called me and said, "Hey, we got a letter here from the Wayne County Foundation." I said, "Well, open it." And they said that our grant was funded, and $7,000 happened to be enough to purchase some refurbished anesthesia equipment and hire a couple of part-time vets. And we were located at Help the Animals shelter at the time. So we did, between 2007 and 2011, 4,500 surgeries, spay-neuter surgeries, in a room about this size.
Wow.
So by 2011, we had outgrown our space, and we were kind of taking away from what Help the Animals mission was, because we were an interference. We still work very, very well with them, help them with whatever they need, and vice versa. And it's just kind of snowballed from there.
Wow, that's great. So on the website, I mentioned earlier that your mission is providing quality, affordable veterinary and spay-neuter services. So I visited you recently at ACA, and early on in our conversation, you did make a point that you're not a shelter. That's not part of your mission. But I can say that, firsthand, I felt like there was a lot going on there at ACA. And just tell us a little bit about the scope of the organization and what happens, there on a day-to-day basis.
Well, our veterinarians primarily deal with domestic animals, which is providing low-cost care, affordable care for dogs and cats, the occasional rabbit. But a lot of people come to us with a cat that they found on a country road hit by a car, or a litter of kittens. Like I said, we're not a shelter, but sometimes, if they're so sick that they're not going to survive anywhere else, we will cave and take care of those animals. So that ends up costing our organization an awful lot of money, because not only do we pay the vets to provide the medical care, and then we have to pay for spay, neuter, vaccinations, housing. You saw our staff that day. We have pretty good size animal care staff, and that's what they do. And we don't recoup any money from these animals. We find them homes, charge a minimal adoption fee, and that doesn't even cover the spay or neuter, that
Right.
we put into them. But somehow somebody's taking care of us somewhere, a big part of the time, and we feel like, I don't know, we just keep going, doing what we think is right. So.
Well, you and I had sat down and yet like a little coffee room or break room, and it's people coming in and out. Seemed like there was tons of people in there working that day. I mean, I was impressed at how many people were there and all just the activity going on. Everyone just seemed super busy. And
We love our new facility. We built a new veterinary clinic. We'd never had a physical building that was designed to be what we wanted it to be. So we built a clinic 5 years ago, and it's multi-rooms, lots and lots of different spaces. And those rooms, just like you just said, they become what we need them to become that day. We don't really have a conference room, so that day it was the break room. The office that was supposed to be mine, I was never in for a single day. It became the wildlife room, and now it's the kitten room. So things just change as needed.
I mean, it looks like you could have way more space than you have now. I mean,
And we'd fill it up. Yeah.
I mean, it was really impressive. So I know you speak about charging for spay neuter services. How do you fund your organization overall? I mean, so you take in fees for that. I assume helps some, but I don't think that covers everything.
It really doesn't. We also sell flea control products, heartworm prevention. Our veterinarians see appointments. That helps bring in money. So if you got a sick kitten, we charge an office call for that, and then whatever the meds cost. So we raise money doing that kind of thing. But I'd like to say that there's a national shortage of veterinarians across the country. It seems like probably 50% of the clinics are looking for veterinary help just because there are too few of them. So it depends on how many veterinary hours, as far as how you can only make money if you have a veterinarian there. So we're a little shy right now, but actually we have a new veterinarian starting this coming Wednesday, and she specializes in exotic pets. So you have your hedgehog or a sick iguana, or a snake with an ulcer on its scales or something like that. So she'll be able to do that. So I think that's really going to broaden our scope, and we can reach out to even other communities. You pretty much have to go to Indianapolis or Cincinnati to receive exotic care right now. So we're really excited about that.
Why do you think there's such a shortage of veterinarians?
I might get myself into trouble here.
Okay.
But 50 years ago, when the male veterinarians that helped us start this business graduated from vet school, the graduates were all men. And now they're all women. So, which is wonderful. They're compassionate. They're fabulous veterinarians. But you get out of school, you get married in a couple years, you want to have kids, you want to work part-time, go to the soccer games and stuff like that. I think that is drastically cut into. And I don't think it's just the veterinary world. I think it's dentistry and medical doctors and that kind of thing. So it's not just us, but it is a problem.
Right. With veterinary care, that is, I know there are insurance policies or plans that you can get for your animals. I would say that is probably a very low percentage of what pet owners have. So mostly the costs associated with caring for your pets is really out of pocket for people.
Right.
I can see in the healthcare industry, there's lots of, I think in the medical field, there's lots of frustrations because of insurance and whatever. But in veterinary care, it's a little different because everyone's making a conscious choice to own a pet, and they know they're going to have to pay for that. Right. So I don't see that healthcare is a deterrent. So I just don't know. It seems like there's so many animal lovers, but it's probably pretty tough to get through to veterinary school. I don't know what it involves. What would it involve? Do you know all the ins and outs of that?
I just know what I hear. They say it's harder to become a veterinarian than it is a physician. A part of that is that there are fewer veterinary schools out there. So other than that, I can't really say.
There's in the medical field, there's like nurse practitioners. Is there such a thing in veterinary care?
There isn't, and there should be. I don't know. I mean, it might not be in my lifetime, but I think at some point it's going to have to happen because us, for example, mostly what we want is to have somebody doing spays and neuters, just assembly line spays and neuters all day long. That's the only thing that's going to make a sizable difference, an ethical difference in the overpopulation problem. But there isn't that determination at this point in time.
Seems like that would really help a lot.
Absolutely,
from what
it
you're
would.
saying. Yes. How does being a not-for-profit help your organization versus if it was a for-profit organization?
People can make donations to us and take them off of their taxes. We don't have to pay taxes on most of what we buy.
Okay.
It helps. It's not huge, but it helps.
So it does help a little bit with your cause.
Yes.
Outside of funding, what are some of the other struggles that you experience at ACA?
I would say mostly just the frustration that there is such an overpopulation problem of dogs and cats in this community. We do a lot of things wrong. There are parts of the country that do everything right. For example, there's a big part of Toledo that's a fairly affluent area, and that doesn't mean that they're going to get good homes, but
Right.
they do the right things. They don't let their cats out unspayed, unneutered to repopulate, and they don't have the backyard breeders thinking I'm going to get rich from breeding my pit bulls and that kind of thing. They do it right. So some of those organizations are just fabulous, and they will contact us sometimes a couple times a year and say, hey, we don't have any kittens right now. We're going to do a transport, and we are going to come down, and if you can supply us with kittens that have had health checks and that kind of thing, we'll take them off your hands. And we know that they're going to find good homes up there. They do screening and that kind of thing. And
So do you work with with them on a regular basis?
as often as possible.
Right.
Because if we send 20 kittens to Toledo that we're comfortable are going to a really good place, we can take in 20 more.
Okay. What can our followers and others in the community do to help?
Donations are always welcome and much needed. Even like the local Kroger store, if you can go to Kroger's online, there is a way that, and it doesn't cost you anymore when you purchase your groceries, but you can dedicate a certain amount of money that will go through Kroger's to us directly. There are some things like that. So most important thing, spay and neuter your pets. Get them spayed and
Right.
neutered.
Well, on your site, if you go to animalcarealliance.com, you have a donation button right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a pretty simple way to go and make a contribution to ACA. So
Absolutely. Thank you.
animalcarealliance.com. So when someone Googles animal shelters in our community, several show up, like Help the Animals, Animal Welfare League, Second Chance, Whiskers, Liberty Acres United, and you come up as well. You're not a shelter, but
Right.
ACA comes up. Do you partner with any of these shelters? You did mention Help the Animals, but is there any partnership going on?
Absolutely. We work very well with everybody. And I can tell you, when I came back here, as I said, from Pittsburgh 30 years ago, it was not like that. Everybody was their own entity, and it was just nobody worked together, and nobody would take any advice from anybody else. And that has changed so much, and it's a good thing. We should all be working for the same goal. So, okay, for example, we have a really nice relationship with Purina Distribution Center in Vandalia, Ohio.
Okay.
And they used to be located in Richmond, and this was probably 15 years ago. And we would go every week and collect broken bags and tape of pet food, tape them up, share them with other shelters, and to the tune of over 100,000 pounds a year. So today we're sending the biggest U-Haul that they have to Vandalia. They called us a couple days ago and said they had excess dog food. So we're going to get probably 20,000 pounds of dog food, and we have what's it called? There's an Action for Animals in Muncie is coming this afternoon early, and then Animal Welfare League is meeting us there at about 2:30. Help is meeting us at 3, so we're going to be able to share food with them. not just for their own pets, but they have food pantries that they help people with that have fallen on hard times and can't afford to feed their dogs.
Right, right. So what kind of a dent does that amount of food make? Do you go through that pretty quick? I mean, where do you store all it? It sounds like a lot of food, but maybe it's not. Maybe
it is a lot of food.
Okay.
Yeah, we have actually a 40-foot shipping container that we rented about a year and a half ago when Purina called and said, hey, we got 40,000 pounds of food. We got 40,000 pounds of food in one day. So we rented a skid loader, and a whole bunch of people with muscle came, and it was really cool. But then we also got another grant this spring from the Wayne County Foundation that helped us pay off that shipping container.
Okay.
And it's a good thing because, not everybody has the facility or ability to store that's like rodent free and not going to get rained on and things like that. So we love having that opportunity. And then whenever possible, we can share with other organizations.
So I mentioned these different organizations. Do you feel like is there enough shelters in the Wayne County area? I mean, what do you think the current need is, given what our situation is with
we definitely
population?
Need another shelter, a city and county shelter. The county contract right now, or animals found in the county are supposed to go to the Animal Welfare League. They have that contract. The truth is, it's not a real big facility. They often don't have room, and so a lot of times those animals will stay on the street. Same thing with Richmond. Richmond contracts with Henry County, Newcastle. So any stray found in Richmond is supposed to be picked up by the animal control officer and taken to Newcastle. Well, that's a long drive for one thing, and also then sometimes people don't know where to look for their pets. My dog is missing. It's not here in any of the shelters, and they don't think to go to Newcastle. It's kind of crazy, and very often Newcastle is full. So what they're told is to just leave them on the street. I mean, Richmond Police Department, and it's through no fault of their own, and the animal control officers will say, hey, I've got nowhere to take them, just put them back where you found them. So we're seeing an increase in like emaciated dogs found in the country and things like that. And I think people, when forced with trying to find a place for their pet, if there's nowhere to go, sometimes they'll just leave them in an alley, and it's very sad.
So what do you think the answer is to try to make that happen? I mean, who would help drive that to happen?
There's a lot of discussion. There's some government money out there. I'm not good at discussing that kind of thing just because I don't quite understand it all. But the city and the county are both involved in hopefully trying to make something like that happen. One problem I heard was that some of the decision makers said that it's not sustainable. The animal shelter isn't sustainable. And I don't understand how anybody can say that without talking to the people who are going to be responsible for making it happen. Because, for example, fallen officer Sierra Burton, her family is lending total support to either calling the shelter naming it after Sierra, since she was an intense dog lover or animal lover in general. And just simply lending her name to some of those projects, I think, would be a huge moneymaker. People would love to contribute to that.
Right. It just needs to be, somebody take that cause and be in charge of it and help drive it along the way. You talked about in our area, it seems like we have a lot. Our issue with stray animals is probably beyond the norm. Is that what you said? Or
I would think so.
It?
I actually stopped at the clinic this morning on my way here to ask our staff members who watch like Richmond Pet Community things and ask them how many stray animals they're seeing on there posted every day. And they said 3 to 5 every single day. And most of them are strays that don't have a home to go back to. So what's supposed to happen to these animals?
Right. I don't know if there's certain laws on the books about animal care that just maybe aren't being enforced, and maybe that creates more of the problem. I don't know. I've not personally researched that enough to really know. Maybe you don't know either. I don't.
Well, I was part of a group that I think it was 2010. We went before City Council and asked them to change some or adds to some ordinances to make things a little tighter. And one of those was that if your dog is running or your dog is producing puppies, that kind of thing, and you're caught, you have two choices. You either get your animal fixed within 30 days, or you buy a breeder's permit for $100, and that's a drop in the bucket, $100. But they even discussed city tags. We're supposed to have a breeder's notation on them. Now
Okay.
that could help. I mean, is it going to change the world? No, it's not going to. But it might. It sends a message. I'm going to get in trouble, or animal control is going to knock on my door if I breed my pit bull one more time. And I think it's a step in the right direction, but it's not enforced.
Right. That's the problem. You have all the rules in the world, but if they're not being enforced, they're meaningless.
Right.
Beyond what might be the obvious, is there anything else about why it's important for people to spay and neuter their pets?
The health of the pet itself. Yeah. We see testicular cancer in unspayed, unneutered dogs, prostate cancers and problems. Females get breast cancer if they haven't been spayed. They get a condition called pyometra, which is deadly. It's an infection of the uterus, and if you don't remove that uterus right away, or sometimes even if you do, the animal will pass away. They're just to protect the health of your pet.
Right. And I don't think people really. I didn't know that. I mean, most people, I think, get their pets spayed and neutered so they don't have unwanted puppies or kittens.
Right.
They don't think about the health side of it. So I think that's really important to learn today, just in our conversation.
Can help with aggression too. So if you have a male that's a little pushy, sometimes neutering, it's huge with cats. I mean, we see if you neuter a male cat that's aggressive, you got a whole different cat within 30 days. I mean, all that testosterone is out of the system, and it's really interesting to watch. Plus, then you don't have all those unwanted kittens. So.
Right. So my wife and I, over the past 30 years, have had to have 3 of our pets euthanized. And each time it was just totally agonizing. The decision, I mean, just the experience is terrible. In each case, we felt like we made the right decision. However, it's just an awful decision to have to navigate through. What advice can you give our followers how to walk through that decision when it's the time to do it? I mean, it's just tough.
Yeah, it's very hard, but sometimes it's the last kindest thing you can do for that animal too. If it's down to no quality of life, it's not eating, or it can't stand up. We see it a lot. People just wanting to hang on till there's absolutely nothing left, and it's hard for any of us, But I think that animal, if you watch closely, will let you know. I'm not having fun anymore. I don't want to eat anymore. I'm in pain. That kind of thing. And it is hard, but again, it's very often the kindest thing you can do.
Right. I mean, our recent cat was a cat, and we lost her, and she was over 17 years old, which I think is a pretty good lifetime.
It's a very good lifespan, yeah.
For a cat, but she had some major medical issues, and she had lost over half of her weight, and she became totally inactive and wouldn't eat. And as agonizing as it was, we just felt it was time.
Yeah, you told me about her. And
for
it
her.
jerks at your heartstrings, but it sounds like you did the right thing.
So if somebody is thinking of getting a pet, what's your advice to them? Because sometimes I think people take on pets for the wrong reasons, or it might be an emotional decision at times, and then you have this animal that now they really shouldn't have. I mean, when you're considering adoption or getting a pet, what can you offer some advice or some things people should really consider?
You're right. Sometimes it's just a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, this is a cute puppy, we're just going to get it, or I love this cat, and but we don't have any litter, we don't have any food, we haven't thought this through, or we had a couple come in not long ago with 2 ducks, and we took the ducks, and they said, well, it's not working out in our apartment. And I thought, well, why? Duh, why would you get 2 ducks for your apartment? But it's the same with dogs and cats. Our veterinarian, Dr. Kostick, we love her so much, and she and her family have Irish wolfhounds. Well, these things are huge. I mean, they're like 150 pounds, something like that. But she's got space for them. She's got a yard, and they walk them all the time, So people just need to do their homework and think it through. If I can carry it into reptiles, we have an 80-pound sulcata tortoise. I would never, ever go out and purchase something like that. It was dumped in Glen Miller Park 6 years ago when she weighed 11 pounds. And we take her to schools. She's getting so big, it's going to be hard to do it much longer, but to teach kids, hey, you got to do your homework before you get one of these things. It's going to outlive you. It's going to outweigh you. It can't be out in the wintertime. Not everybody wants a sulcata tortoise laying in their living room in the wintertime. So, and it's the same thing with dogs and cats. How much time do you have? Do you have time to spend with a dog? If you don't, get, like, I don't know, something easygoing, like, I don't know, a young lab or an old lab or something like that. But don't go get a cattle dog, or don't go get a border collie if you have no time to spend with it.
Mm-hmm. And there's a big difference between, obviously, I'm saying something obvious, but cats and dogs. They're so much different in their care, aren't they? And as far as getting a cat might be better than getting a dog for some people, or vice versa.
Absolutely, yeah.
It seemed like there was another thing I wanted to add. Oh, if we see, you mentioned a little bit earlier, if we see an animal loose, just running loose, or an animal injured, I mean, what's your best advice about what to do if somebody sees that?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, we'll tell people, call the police department, and they'll call back and say they said they can't do anything. And again, it's not their fault. It's just out of control. Shelters in general have changed over the years, and I think I was watching Fox News the other morning, and they were talking about an Indianapolis shelter that was reaching out to neighborhoods. Like, if the neighborhood had like a stray dog or something like that, they would even provide them with food and resources to try and keep that dog in the neighborhood. Maybe they'll find its home fast, or something
Right.
like that, rather than put it into a shelter. Shelters so often have become just warehousing facilities. And, I think it's like 22% of the animals are reclaimed, something like that. A huge portion are never reclaimed. I don't really have any advice.
It was, I believe it was the summer before last. I live out in the country, and we had this dog. It was a really sweet dog, but it was real skittish. It wouldn't let you get near it. It wasn't aggressive. It just was scared. And it ended up, another family member lived near us, and this dog ended up kind of gravitating to that property and just kind of hung out on the porch. And it was cared for and fed for a while. And luckily, we were able to find kind of a local rural family that wanted. This is a little bit larger dog that ended up wanting the dog. And from what I know, that dog ended up going there and living there. But we had made calls to try to get help, and they said, "Yeah, we'll be out," but they never came. And I suspect they're overwhelmed with people calling about animals.
Sure they are.
In our community. From what I'm hearing from you, we have a little bit of a issue, more so than maybe what other communities might.
We probably get 15 to 20 calls a day, more about cats than anything else, and it's really hard to say no. There's nothing we can do, but there's nothing we can do.
One thing I wanted to remember to ask you about or share is, when I came to your clinic, you took me over to your wildlife section. Tell us a little bit about the wildlife that you have.
We're the only organization within a multi-county area that is licensed by Indiana Department of Natural Resources and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to rehabilitate or care for orphaned and injured native mammals and raptors and songbirds. So again, the only one. So we get them from miles and miles and miles around. So in the spring, March through July is the peak time. We're getting baby raccoons, baby foxes, possums almost all year long. This time of year we see a lot of raptors that are just not faring well because, they say something like 90% of them never make it through their first year of life. So mom and dad, teach them as well as they can to hunt and then set them free. And very often they're not street smart. They're like letting a 14-year-old go and saying, make your way in life. So we get a lot of those. Right now we have, I think, 4 red tails, 2 barred owls, 5 eastern screech owls, got a great turkey vulture that I love more than life. He's so much fun to take to school. So we also have education permits, and we use those animals, the ones that aren't releasable, to take to schools and Cope Environmental Center and Hayes Arboretum and public events, just to teach people about conservation and their species in general.
Because some of the animals that you care for in your wildlife section, they can't be released into the wild because of some type of an injury that just makes it impossible for them to be let out in the environment. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, and that's where you have an opportunity to use them to participate in education.
Right.
And so, I've seen some pictures of you doing that. It seems like that's something that you really love to do.
It is fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of different. We have there's a species of owl in Indiana called a short-eared owl. At one point, they were endangered, and I thought they still were, but evidently they've passed through that stage. But I had only seen one in my life, and that was about 5 years ago. And that one came to us very injured, and it didn't survive. And then within the last month, we've gotten two, and one of those was so badly injured that it didn't survive. But we've got this other one. It's just the coolest little creature. It looks so different. I mean, it doesn't look like the normal owls that you see, and it's about 3 times the size of a screech owl, a bit smaller than a barred owl. So it's a cool bird.
You don't get to see owls out in the wild that much because they're nocturnal,
Right.
I guess, but they're such amazing and beautiful animals to see. I mean, it was kind of cool to get to see these barn owls that you have because you don't typically see them.
Right.
I mean, it's rare that you do, and they are just absolutely gorgeous.
Aren't they, though?
They are.
And sometimes at night, I'll hear them calling. We've released some barred owls out on that property too, and so I'll hear them calling out and others in the woods answering back, and I always wonder, is it one that we took care of, or but it's fun.
So is there anything else that today you'd like to share with our followers? Some words of wisdom?
Spay and neuter your pets for their health and for the community in general. But no, we can always use donations. Always.
Yes, and like I had mentioned earlier, if you go to animalcarealliance.com, there's a really simple way to donate to your organization. So I hope people listening today will do that. I can speak for myself. They do a wonderful job there, and they've got a lot of people working to help the cause. How, outside of making contributions, do you have many volunteers? How does that work?
We have a few volunteers. We have an awful lot of Earlham students that volunteer, and a big part of that is we like to mentor students who are interested in making some kind of wildlife or veterinary medicine their life's work. So we do a lot of mentoring. Actually, we've had 3 students or interns be accepted into veterinary schools in the last few years. So we're kind of proud of them
Absolutely.
and patting ourselves on the back for having a little something to do with that. But we like to have volunteers. Animal care is a huge part of what we do. Again, we don't make any money for that, so we try to be careful. So if anybody wants to come and help us scoop litter boxes, feed cats, socialize cats that are scared when they come in, that's always very, very valuable.
So you can use more money, of course.
Absolutely.
But, so do you need more volunteers? Would you take
Yeah, we would take volunteers. Yeah.
So if I'm interested in coming and even just spending time with some of the animals that help, just care for them or do tasks, what's the best way to make that contact with
Just
Animal Care Alliance?
Call the clinic, 488-2444, area code 765, and there will always be a staff member that would be happy to talk to you about volunteer opportunities.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us
Thank
today.
you. It's been fun.
I've really enjoyed the conversation, and hopefully those listening or watching, they'll have a greater appreciation for what Animal Care Alliance does and the different shelters. And there's definitely a need out there, and hopefully if you're inspired to want to help, you've got a couple of ways to do that. Thanks to Manpower, our sponsor. They've been in the community since 1966, an invested community partner helping companies win. So for more information about Manpower, you can go to mprichmond.com. Thanks, Joyce.
Thank you.
Loved it.